Today's lesson, boys and girls, as you can see, layers of the atmosphere. Most books list 5 layers. The troposphere, starting at planet Earth, the troposphere, the stratosphere, the mesosphere, the thermosphere, and the exosphere. Okay, boys and girls, that was my favorite class today. Today, boys and girls, we're going to talk about the atmosphere. So what is the atmosphere? The atmosphere is the gases that surround us every day. When I move around on the planet, I'm surrounded by atmospheric air. So what is atmospheric air? Air makes up the atmosphere. It is composed primarily of nitrogen. About 78% of the gas that surrounds me right now is nitrogen. And it causes us no issues. It's innate, doesn't bother us as long as we stay within 1 atmosphere of pressure. Next would be oxygen. About 21% of the Earth's atmosphere is oxygen, very important to us as mammals, and we need it to survive. Next would be argon, an inert gas, a noble gas. About 1% of the Earth's atmosphere is noble gases, is the noble gas of argon. Next is the gas that you hear a lot about, especially in relation to global warming or global climate change, they call it now, and that's carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is less than 0.5% of all the air on our planet is composed of carbon dioxide. Less than 0.5%. Actually, technically, it's about, I believe it's 0.039% of atmospheric air is carbon dioxide, but it's a very important percent. All the other gases that are on the periodic table, they're all in smaller concentrations that make up atmospheric air. So that's our atmosphere. Our atmosphere is a bunch of air that goes right up into outer space, about 10,000 kilometers. It is the air that surrounds us. It is the air that is pressing down on us. When I say that, people tend to think of the atmosphere as being incredibly thick, this huge expanse of air that surrounds our planet, when the reality is it's not true. If we look at a map that I used in an earlier lesson, I believe I used this in the plate tectonics lesson or continental drift lesson. If we look at this map and we want to see in relation, proportionally, how high the atmosphere would be above this map, the easiest way to do that is to take a piece of saran wrap. Now if I take this clear piece of saran wrap and I lay this on top of the map, this will show you how thick the atmosphere actually is. Not very thick, is it? Not as thick as you would think. Okay, the layers of the atmosphere. Most books say there are 5, so that's what we'll stick with for this lesson. The lowest layer is the layer that's most important to us, I guess, or maybe not most important, but it's the layer that we work and live and survive in. It's called the troposphere. The troposphere is the layer that has weather. It is the layer we live in. It goes from the surface of the planet upwards from about 9 kilometers at the poles, and it gets a little thicker at the equator, up to about 17 kilometers. This is the layer where we have our weather. And how that happens is the sun shines and the sun's radiation warms our planet. It warms our planet unequally. It warms our planet more at the equator than it does at the poles. And this unequal distribution of warmth is what causes all the weather that happens on our planet. We'll talk more about that in a later lesson. So what else can I tell you about the troposphere, the lowest level? It's the layer that we live. Its temperatures are temperature that is current around us up to the top, which goes to about -60. If we go to the top of the troposphere, it's about -60 up there, which makes sense. The sun warms the earth gives off heat. The closer we are to the planet Earth, the warmer it is. If we were to climb Mount Everest, for example, if you've ever seen pictures of anybody climbing Mount Everest, they're not dressed in shorts. It's very cold at the top of Mount Everest because they are farther away from the base of the planet. The closer you get to the top of the troposphere, the colder it gets. Mean temperature, top of the troposphere, about -60. Next layer of the atmosphere, goes from the top of the troposphere, it's called the tropopause, goes from there out to round about 50 kilometers. This layer is called the stratosphere. The stratosphere is the layer of our planet that has something very important to us, the ozone layer. The ozone layer is a layer that absorbs certain wavelengths of ultraviolet radiation that come from the sun. It absorbs them, and because of that, these wavelengths of radiation don't hit the planet where they would cause irreparable harm. For example, cancer. This wavelength of radiation causes skin cancer. If we didn't have the ozone layer, mammals would have serious issues and problems very, very quickly if anything happened to our ozone layer. It's also a warmer layer of the atmosphere than the top of the troposphere. It warms up to about, I can't remember now, but it's warmer anyway than the troposphere. It'll be in the notes I send you. Above the stratosphere is another layer of the Earth's atmosphere. It is called the mesosphere. Mesos, the Greek meaning middle, is the middle layer. The mesosphere is the area that goes from the top of the stratosphere, called the stratopause, to the top of the mesosphere. It goes up to about 80-85 kilometers roundabout from most texts that you reference. It is the area that meteors burn out in. On top of the mesosphere is a layer of the atmosphere called a thermosphere. Thermos coming from the Greek meaning heat. If you look at a thermos that people actually use, well, a thermos is used to keep beverages hot. Well, the thermosphere is the hot layer of the atmosphere. Temperatures there are about 1500 degrees Celsius. That's pretty freaking hot. That's the layer of the atmosphere that the space station is in. Very, very hot layer. Some books actually categorize the thermosphere as two layers. More advanced textbooks will say the lower level of the thermosphere is the ionosphere. That's the layer that has the aurora borealis, the northern lights. And the top layer would be the exosphere. Other books just say the exosphere is a separate layer. The exosphere is a very thin layer of our atmosphere. It goes out to about 10,000 kilometers. Atoms of helium and hydrogen, which is mostly what it consists of at this layer, that travel around our planet in orbit, sometimes will go 200, 300, 400 kilometers before they contact another atom, telling you that it's a very thin layer. Sometimes atoms in this layer actually get blown away by solar winds. So those are the 5 layers of the atmosphere. Troposphere, layer that's closest to us. Stratosphere, the next layer. The mesosphere, the middle layer. The thermosphere, the hot layer. And the exosphere, the very outer layer. 5 layers of the atmosphere, boys and girls. Have a good day.